How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel for the second installment in this weekly news roundup video series I have going on right now. Last week I put out the question to you guys whether you wanted a weekly news video that discussed all of the Star Wars gaming news each and every week, and you guys responded in a big way. So here we are today with a weekly news roundup for Star Wars games. Now, we have some pretty good news all round from this week, including new information on Star Wars Squadrons, the Battlefront 2 petition crossing 100,000 signatures, as well as some more information on the big news that dropped in the past week regarding EA ramping up on Star Wars games in the future. And we've also got some updates on people getting banned on Battlefront 2 as well, so we'll get to that towards the end. But of course, before we get into that, we are so damn close to hitting 100,000 subscribers. We're like well under 2,000 away now, and when we do hit it, I will be doing a special live stream event for it. So if you haven't already, then be sure to hit that subscribe button so we can reach that milestone. But now let's just dive on into the news roundup for this week, as there is a lot to get to. So first off, we're going to start with the news regarding Star Wars Squadrons. Jay Ingram was responding to some questions regarding Star Wars Squadrons over on Discord, and we learned a little bit more on how certain things are going to be working in Squadrons regarding the gameplay, what we will be able to do, and just generally giving us a better idea on the gameplay itself. So this first screenshot is a little older, but people have brought it up this week as it kind of got overlooked and just went under the radar by a ton of people. This goes on to say, so when changing ships, you can either do so after dying, like changing a trooper class in most games, or you can return to your flagship in fleet battles and change ships via its hangar. So this in itself sounds pretty interesting. Not the changing classes like any other game part, obviously, but the notion of just being able to return to your flagship in fleet battles to change ships through the hangar. This definitely was not in Battlefront 2, so this looks like it's going to put a nice little bit of a twist on the gameplay, and I'm definitely keen to see more of that in actual gameplay form itself. It sounds like a really cool mechanic rather than just pausing and pressing respawn like you're pretty much forced to do with Battlefront 2. Now, Jay did go on further and added some new information on the game modes and how they are going to work. He went on to say, dogfights isn't ranked. There are AI throughout all of the fleet battles. The phase setup in the gameplay reveal is how the battle plays out, but you can theoretically go attack the flagships from the get-go. You just won't have any help and will likely get taken out super quick. I have tried, do not underestimate turbo lasers. So a few things to break down from that. Further confirmation that fleet battles will contain AI, so this should make those large-scale battles feel just a little bit more alive. I did see a lot of people raising concern regarding this when the gameplay reveal came out. They weren't quite sure, but now we have our confirmation. So that's of course some good news right there. And also regarding the structure of the fleet battles mode, you don't have to do everything in order. Think of it like skipping to the last phase of Galactic Assault in Battlefront 2. But it's just going to be a hell of a lot harder. So it looks like this mode could get really interesting if you have a really good squad with you. So the game seems like it's going to be at times really challenging, which I think is a good sign. I really don't want this game to be too easy, and I can't wait to get my hands on Squadrons. Although it's a smaller title, it seems like it's going to deliver big on the Starfighter experience, which is great. Now next up, we're going to be talking about Battlefront 2's petition again. Yep, even though I said last week I wasn't going to address it any further, but it did cross 100,000 signatures, which is a pretty big achievement for the community, showing how many people want Battlefront games in future. I know a lot of people are scoffing at this petition, and I get it, I really understand why, but to be fair, the petition has been changed for it to be more focused on Battlefront games in general. I said all along that the best this petition could do is raise awareness on how many people want a Battlefront 3 or just a Battlefront game in general, given its huge following. And it seems like the petition is actually aiming more towards that now, as what the petition was originally created for just wasn't really going to go anywhere. But the petition has slightly changed, and it kind of took off again over the past week because a few YouTubers mentioned it in their videos. And given the announcement by EA CEO Andrew Wilson last week regarding Star Wars games, which we will of course get into in just a minute, it just seems like it just spiked a bit more interest once again. A lot of people did actually say when this petition was at like 20,000 signatures that it would need like 100,000 before things started to get anywhere. But even still, I think now with it actually having 100,000 signatures, I don't see it doing much. I think EA especially, given what happened last week with the announcement, I think they fully understand just how popular these games are, and I wouldn't be surprised if something was in the pipeline going forward. But yeah, unless any solid news comes of this petition, I think this will legitimately this time be the last time that I talk about it. As let's be honest, it's not going to hit another milestone like 150,000 anytime soon. So you're all up to date now, so that's pretty much it for the petition. But now moving on, and I already discussed this briefly on my channel last week, but seeing as this is a roundup video, I am going to take a bit of a deeper dive into this today. As I'm not going to lie, I really didn't cover enough of this when I covered it in my video last week. So just around a week ago, EA CEO Andrew Wilson did mention that EA were going to be doubling down on the partnership with Star Wars, and that's obviously great news for all of us. Now, like I said, I kept this brief last time I spoke about it as I got the video out as quick as possible, but there was much more to this interview which I won't bore you with myself. I'll let you just hear it from Andrew Wilson himself.
We have a tremendous relationship with Disney. We've had success in first-person shooters, in RPGs, in action-adventure, and MMORPGs. I believe we're going to have success in Squadrons as well. And so, again, I think that we're going to double down on that partnership. Disney continue to be very, very committed to the IP and to the canon. They continue to create new content. So our expectation is we think there continues to be a really, really strong opportunity in and around that relationship and that IP going forward.
So this makes it blatantly clear that EA have plans for Star Wars games going forward and have intentions of making more Star Wars games than the ones we currently know about. We know of Star Wars Squadrons coming later this year and a Jedi Fallen Order sequel coming at some point in the next couple years. But if they are doubling down on the Star Wars IP, then I think it's fair to say that we can keep an eye out for announcements going forward. And given that, as per this call with investors, EA and Disney seem to have a great partnership, so the license could possibly be extended. I honestly think this is really good to see. I really want Respawn to keep making Star Wars games. They knocked it out of the park with Fallen Order, and they rarely ever make a bad or even a mediocre game. So seeing them take on new Star Wars projects would be amazing, and I would love for DICE to have another crack at the Battlefront franchise with a Battlefront 3. The dev team at DICE are so dedicated to Battlefront and just the Battlefront community in general. Although things haven't always been perfect, I think they would be the safest hands for the continuation of the Battlefront franchise. So this announcement was probably the biggest news to come out of Star Wars games this week, and it's pretty big news and really positive too. I was really worried that Star Wars games were going to go on a bit of a hiatus over the next few years, but given this news, it seems like that is just not going to happen. It's going to be the complete opposite. So I will of course be following this very closely, so make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with all of that good stuff. Now, one of the last things that I just want to touch on before we wrap up this video is regarding hackers and people being banned in Battlefront 2 for using mods. Now, last week we talked about how people were getting banned for using all kinds of mods in Battlefront 2, and it turns out this has something to do with a new anti-cheat system coming into Battlefront 2 server-side. So it is definitely doing its job, as a lot of hackers are actually being banned, which is great to see. I haven't personally come across any hackers on PC for a while, to be honest, but it turns out this system is actually pretty sharp, and that's probably why a lot of players using mods have been getting banned lately. Now, some of these people have actually been unbanned, as a lot of these players are using harmless cosmetic mods offline and some online, but I will just say, guys, be careful what mods you are using. It seems if you do get banned, you can look into it further to get yourself unbanned, but I wouldn't even bother running that risk, so stay safe with your mods and make sure you're not crossing any lines. But to sum it up, a pretty solid week for news regarding Star Wars games. It was nice to get a little bit more information on how Squadrons gameplay is going to work, seeing as the gameplay trailer revealed a lot, but it did keep some details fairly scarce. I assume more details for this game will surface as the weeks and months go by in the lead up to the game's release in October. As for the petition, I will post it in the description if you do want to sign it, as, I mean, it's harmless. I think the idea of growing it is cool. But of course, obviously, the big news to take away from the past week is the news regarding the future of Star Wars games. Without concrete announcements, this is probably the best that we could have hoped for. I personally would love to see a Battlefront 3 come into the early stages of development, as that, in my opinion, should be the #1 priority. But guys, that's just about going to wrap it up for this video. Be sure to drop a like if you're enjoying these weekly news roundup videos. The first one went really well and I am more than happy to continue doing this on the channel, so be sure to show some love on this video, and like I mentioned, we are so close to the big 100,000 subscriber milestone. And of course, any help to reach that would be absolutely amazing. But that is going to do it for me today, so thank you all for watching and have a good one.